Update. I have been with my wife Ava for 8 years now, but we've been married for 5. She was a single mom of 3 kids when we started dating. She had 2 daughters and a son. I've watched these kids grow up. I've read the bedtime stories, done bath time, the first days of school, Tom meetings, all of it. I very much consider them to be my kids, and they've been calling me mom for almost 6 years now. My brother Ivan just had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah. I love my niece and my kids adore their cousin. My kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family since Ava and I got together, and there's never been a moment where the kids and my wife were treated like they didn't belong. My brother's their uncle, my mom and dad are their nana and pop. The kids see my family as their family, and I always thought that my family felt the same way about them. The kids and I were over at my brother's house just hanging out, and my parents ended up dropping by with gifts for my niece. Ivan laughed when he saw the toys and told our mom and dad that they were going to end up spoiling her rotten. My mom said since my niece is their first grandchild, of course, they have to spoil her. My kids were sitting in the living room with all of us, and my youngest daughter looked hurt when she realized what my mother said. My son and my 12-year-old didn't fully react to it, but I could tell it bothered the both of them too. Sarah spoke up and said, "Oh, you mean first grandbaby, not first grandchild." My dad shook his head and replied that my niece was their first grandchild. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there and listening to that, so I handed my son my keys and told him to wait in the car with his sisters. When they were gone, I asked my parents why the beep they'd say that my kids weren't their grandchildren, and my mom said they couldn't be their grandchildren because they weren't really my children. My wife and I were going to be hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year, but I told my parents that if they didn't view my kids as their family, then they could just host a meal at their own house with their real family while I spent the holiday with mine. I left before they could say anything else to me, and my wife and I have reiterated to the children that they will always be my kids, and I will always be their other mom, regardless of our DNA. My brother is beep at me now because he thinks I reacted too harshly, and that I should try to see where my parents are coming from. My mom texted saying that she and my dad love the kids, but they still aren't their grandchildren, and she hopes that we can come to understand that because she doesn't want this to ruin my niece's first Thanksgiving. I haven't replied back. I meant what I said, but I'm worried that maybe I'm reacting too harshly. ETA info. I adopted all 3 of the kids about 4 years ago, so they aren't just my parents' step-grandchildren. Even if I hadn't legally adopted them, they'd still be my kids in my eyes. Edit no. Point 2. My wife's parents don't have a relationship with the kids. When my wife came out, they pretty much stopped speaking with her entirely. Their bio dad is not involved, and neither is his family. He lost his rights to the children before Ava and I started dating. The 10-year-old has never met him, the 12-year-old doesn't remember him, and the 16-year-old wants nothing to do with him. My parents wanted the kids to call them Nana and Pop. I didn't make the kids start calling them that. Update: I am an escort, and I am falling in love with one of my clients. Original post here. Beep /beep edit /beep final update from the previous thread, because a lot of you didn't seem to read the original post, or missed its final update. Here it is so I don't have to keep answering things that have already been answered. Beep. Well, I truly didn't expect this post to get the reception it did. I didn't think this many people would care and become so invested in my story. I really didn't expect all the support I got. I was flooded with comments, beep, and chat requests. Some were about what I expected. Accusations of gold digger and can't turn a hoe into a housewife type comments. That's really the response I expected. What I didn't expect were the thousands of comments and messages of support. You were all right in that I did know what I really wanted. I did know what my heart was telling me, but seeing thousands of people tell me to go for it was the push I needed to not waste any more time. Shoot your shot, right? I'd like to address a few things before I get into the update. A few people mentioned the story about his wife might be fake and he's secretly married. I was pretty sure he wasn't married. I did outcalls to his home, and my married clients never take me to their home, always a hotel. But I was regularly in his home. I saw the pictures of her around the house. I know she was real. How can I trust a guy who uses escorts? Well, this is a silly thing to judge him on considering what I do. I can't imagine judging a man for using my service. I was his first too, and unless he's a good actor, I know the awkwardness of a first-timer, and he was definitely awkward when we first met. I never asked him if he started seeing other escorts, because frankly, it's none of my business. I should wait for him to approach me. Unfortunately, this probably wouldn't work. As the lines became blurred, I did tell him about a few clients who became overly possessive, obsessive, and jealous. I had to drop. I am sure he thought the same would happen to him if he tried to tell me he wanted a personal relationship. I had to be the one to make this move. Do I want to do this forever / do I really want to give it up? Different variations on this theme of leaving the biz. Some in favor, some against. Bottom line is I don't think I see myself doing this into my 30s. It used to be fun and exciting, but lately it hasn't been. It just feels like work now, and the only meets I look forward to anymore are the ones with him. I also don't feel good about the idea of being committed to him, but still seeing clients. I heard from a lot of other beep workers and clients who were able to make that arrangement work, but I just can't. Even if you would be okay with it, I just can't. Another add-on to this is a friend of mine who has never been crazy about what I do. She's given me a standing offer to go to work with her company on the sales team. A lot of people suggested we try going out as friends and doing things outside our working relationship. I imagine my comments answering this one were buried in the flood of comments, so I'll put it here. We have been. For some time now. We meet for lunches, dinners, we go to the movies and make little trips to sites around where we live. We also text throughout the week. Okay, on to the update. I think I left off yesterday that we had met for lunch. This was sort of a normal thing for us lately, and we had a nice chat. I posed to him the question of if he ever saw himself falling in love and marrying again. He said after his wife died, he didn't think it would be possible, but now he thinks he might be able to with the right person. Then he followed up with a question about if I would ever think about leaving the biz and getting married. And I sorta answered the same, with the right person followed by a pointed stare. He had to go back to work by this point, and I invited him to my home for dinner. This was a first. He has never been to my home. I don't bring clients back there, only friends. I hope that sent a strong signal to him. I went back home and started getting ready. I had to go shopping for some things and get the place ready to have a guest over. I called my friend up. She knows about this guy and has been on the same page as Reddit, pushing me to make a move and settle down into something more normal. I told her about the Reddit post and said I was making the jump. I also let her know I wanted to take her up on her offer. I called up my upcoming appointments and canceled. I said something had come up and I wouldn't be available. I'm out. I'm done regardless of what happened with him if I can't get my head in the game anymore, and I'm getting too personal. Plus now I am realizing I want to be in a relationship and I can't separate beat from my feelings like I thought. It's time to call it. This isn't what I want anymore. This choice was for me, not him. Even if things didn't work out with him, I realized I really did want to be in a committed relationship with someone. One thing that people mentioned was the idea that he could turn violent when I told him. I honestly didn't believe he would, but I asked my friend to call and check on me just in case. She knows the drill. We have safe and emergency words set up, and we have a plan for if she gets no response from me at all. I got my shopping done and got dinner going, set the place up nice and romantic, and got myself dolled up nice and sexy and got ready to have him over. He came by at around 7. He had flowers for me and a bottle of wine. I invited him. He said he wasn't sure if he should bring payment or not, and just did. I told him that wasn't necessary. He wasn't here as a client. I don't bring clients to my home. I was really hoping he was getting the hint. Dinner was going nicely. We had our usual rapport, but I could tell he was a little perplexed about what this was all about. So I put on my big girl beep, gathered my courage, and shoot my shot, as you all put it. I told him I was dropping him as a client. He looked surprised and hurt. He wanted to know why. What did he do wrong? Did something happen? I assured him it wasn't about him. I was leaving the biz and dropped all my clients. I told him about the job I took and he wished me good luck. He said I was attractive and charming and he was sure I would do well in sales. He said he was going to miss me. I took a big deep breath and said, "You don't have to miss me if you don't want to." And then I spilled it. He was the only client I brought home to tell in person. I laid it all out, all the things I mentioned in the post. How I felt about him and how I didn't want to be his escort anymore. I wanted to be his girlfriend. I said I understand he paid me to leave and not stick around, and now I was asking to stick around and I would understand if he didn't want to continue on. He said, "Who told you that?" That he paid me to keep coming back, not to leave. He said he felt it too, but he wasn't sure if it was appropriate to ask me that. He was still hurt over his wife and that he wasn't even sure if he was ready, but that some of the best things in his life he started when he wasn't sure if he was ready. He asked me if I was okay with being with someone who was still hurting over his ex. I told him I could work with it and that I wasn't trying to replace her. We kissed. I led him into my bedroom and we made love. We spent some time after in each other's arms talking about what comes next. He offered to help me make the transition, but I told him I wanted to try and do this on my own and not rely on him. I appreciated his offer, and if I needed the help I would ask, but I need to try on my own at first. He respected that. I told him that things would change now. As his GF, I would have expectations of him I never had as an escort. He was okay with that. I told him I never asked or cared if he saw other women before, but now I wanted monogamy. I would give it, and I wanted it in return, so if he was seeing other escorts that would have to end, and I reminded him I dropped my clients. He said that wasn't a problem. I was the only one. He spent the night with me and left this morning. Where is this going to lead us next? I have no idea. Maybe I am making a huge mistake. Maybe this was fate. Maybe this was Beep working in mysterious ways. Maybe we're just two lost and lonely souls tossed around by the stormy seas of life that managed to find each other and cling to each other. Fate, fairy tale, or fluke, we are going to see where this leads us next, and we're doing it together. I'm excited, elated, and terrified all at once. My whole life has drastically changed in just a day. I didn't intend to move this fast, but once this train started rolling, it seemed like there was no stopping it. And #200B. Beep, start of new post. Beep. Hey everyone. Well, I have been getting a lot of beep and chats about my original post, and I decided I'd give you all a Thanksgiving update and a new question. And #200B. So I know it hasn't been that long since my first post, but one of the things some people had brought up was that I was a fantasy to him, and if things ever became real, the fantasy would be over and the real him would show up. Well, I am happy to say no abusive, misogynistic, malignant, nefarious side of him has as yet been revealed to me. He's very much still the same kind and wonderful man I fell in love with. And #200B. Our relationship is changing and very much for the better. There's no longer any fear between us. We can both be honest about how we feel about each other without the other being scared we were crossing lines. Plus, now that I am out of the biz, my nights and weekends are much freer than they previously were, and that's time I am spending with him now that otherwise I would have spent working. It's really nice to be able to see him whenever I want and not have to worry about other client bookings. We were able to get away for the weekend together. I feel like a teenager in love. And #200B. He's always doing sweet little things for me. Love notes or flowers and chocolates. This next part is something that happened while the lines were still blurred between us, but it's an example of what a thoughtful person he is. We were in the mall together. He had to get some fancy clothes for a work function, and we were at Neiman Marcus. While we were there, I saw a beautiful Carolina Herrera dress I fell in love with. I didn't mention it to him, but he must have noticed me ogling the dress and talking about it with the sales lady. Well, the next time we met, he had a gift for me. That dress. Like I said, he noticed. I didn't tell him or ask him for it. He just picked up on it and got it for me. I don't need gifts of expensive designer dresses or jewelry from him, but it's nice to know I have a partner who really listens and notices things and acts on it. Honestly, I would be just as happy if it had been a pair of $15 sweats from Target that I really liked. It's really the thought that counts. Take a hint, guys, your ladies will appreciate it if you notice what they like and act on it without being told. It makes you feel special and like you really care enough to pay attention. And #200B. I've been spending a lot of time at his house. I'm there all the time now and spend the night on a regular basis. So much so that he got me my own toothbrush and products for me to keep in his bathroom. I know it's early days yet, but we are talking about me moving in with him when my lease expires. And #200B. His family alternates who hosts Thanksgiving every year, and this year was his turn. So while the lines were still blurred, he had invited me to come by to Thanksgiving with his family and friends. I wasn't sure at the time because I still didn't know where I was going, but after we hooked up and made it official, it was a no-brainer that I would go. We talked about how we would introduce me and how we would say we met if asked. We agreed we would tell people we met on an online dating site. It's not that far from the truth. He first contacted me through an ad I had up on a dating site. So I made something to bring and then headed to his house early so I could help him in the kitchen. We both enjoy cooking, so it was fun to work together in the kitchen. He started introducing me to everyone as his girlfriend and I don't know hearing that just made it so real and so official. Like this was really happening. I had little hearts floating around me all day. His family was thrilled to see him move on, and his brother later pulled me aside and thanked me for making his brother happy again. That he hadn't seen his brother smile like that since his late wife passed, and he knew it was because of me. I had to keep the tears from smudging my mascara and eyeliner. And #200B. Here's the thing. I know he hasn't entirely moved on yet. I don't want to push him or rush him. I know he loved her for years and she was taken from him. I know I can't ever fully replace her, and that she will always have a place in his heart. Her clothes are still in his closet. He still has all her stuff. Is it wrong that I want his whole heart, though? How much time do I give him? I agreed when this started to be patient with him because he was honest with me about not being over her death but still loved me and wanted to move forward with me. I know he feels guilty at times, like he is dishonoring her memory. I think Thanksgiving helped because he saw how his family positively responded to him having someone new in his life. I just want him to heal and be able to be happy with me and not feel like he's cheating on her. Is there anything I can to help him with that? Or is it best if I just leave it alone and let him come to terms with that on his own? And #200B. /beep 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 hope all the Americans had a wonderful Thanksgiving yesterday. /beep /beep it 2 /beep /beep. Here we go again with the Pretty Woman references. You're not the first to post it, so it's not new or original or funny. Yes, I've seen it. I know it's hard for some of you to imagine that beep workers and our clients can be human with human feelings, but one thing I learned pretty quickly in my last post is that this story is not nearly as uncommon as I or you thought. I was flooded with beep and chats from former SWs or clients who had similar experiences, and /beep guest /beep have had happy and successful marriages for 10, 15, 20 years. I know some small minds can't comprehend it, but just because it is outside the realm of your comprehension doesn't make it impossible. /beep /beep it 3 /beep /beep. To everyone with useful advice, thank you. I am sensing a theme here of patience, understanding, support, and letting him work through this without pushing it. /beep /beep it 4 /beep /beep. Once again, thank you for the support and kind comments. And thank you for the silvers, golds, and platinum. To the haters, kiss my brown Latina beep. Oh wait, you need to pay for that, and I'm not taking any clients. /beep /beep edit 5 /beep /beep again. Thanks for all the love and support. But I have really taken away, and what I will put into practice is to be patient. Don't view her as competition. Give him all the time he needs, whether that's one day or forever, to embrace her and her memory as an important part of my BFS life, and that he can still love her and cherish her memory while giving me all he has to give now.